and we're going, well, I don't know why he wouldn't want to be with me. But again, you shake your behind to all these other men. They're reviewing you like you were on the auction block. Let's put this into perspective. So if we're saying we didn't want that slavery, you're putting yourself into another type of bondage.
You know what? You say all those things, Tania, it's because you hate yourself. It's because you hate other Black people, and you are a Black white supremacist.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jeff Kirk. Thanks for watching DFE News. Today, we bring you a DFE News Special on the rise of Black conservatism. Is this a lasting movement or a flash in the pan? Do they fit in with the MAGA movement? DFE's Tami DeVine spoke in depth with Tania Gorman of Blexit to find the answers to these questions.
Conservative. That is a dirty word in many circles of the Black community. But there are people and organizations working to change that. One of those organizations is Blexit, and with me is the Senior Strategic Manager of Blexit, Tania Gorman. Thank you so much, Tania, for joining me for this interview.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. Yeah, I want to talk about the rise of Black conservatism because to a lot of people, that's an oxymoron. If you're Black, you're not conservative. You're liberal, you're voting Democrat. And I just want to start off with where that thought process, ideology, mindset came from historically.
Historically, African Americans actually was always conservative prior to the LBJ era. After emancipation, most Black slaves decided they were going to be conservative because that was the party that freed the slaves. So as we go on throughout history, then we take note, we get to the LBJ era, and we have, this new programming in, to create foster, government dependency. And then all of a sudden, boom, we are transformed into a minority community that is actually dependent on the government to provide for us instead of us providing for ourselves. And so then that mindset changed to the democratic or liberal mindset, no father in the home, we can, do whatever we want, women empowerment and all those things, which weakened our culture. So these are the things that we need to now go back to historically. And it's funny when I have these conversations with other minority communities, and I'm like, do you know that we've always been historically conservative? They about fall out. They're like, oh my, what are you talking about? I'm like, again, do your own research. We've been saying this now for years because that's how you know where the strength of our community comes from, is from our conservative roots.
Yeah, and I think part of the issue about where some of that comes from media and entertainment and Hollywood. There's a saying, I think it's Nietzsche, that was like, you become that which you gaze upon, right?
Exactly.
And we, as the Black community, are gazing on a lot of what some people call ratchet stuff. Just,
That is
right?
it.
Just
Ratchet,
terrible,
100%.
nasty stuff. Can you talk about some of the stuff that we are taking in with our eyes and our ears that is causing some of this?
So the degeneracy of our culture, let's call it what it is. We, the rappers and the baseball, football, whatever sports players, they are into that culture. That is not being Black, listening to loud music, sagging pants, bonnets on your head, going out to Walmart in your pajamas. That is not Black culture. Calling, excuse my French, bitches and hoes, in rap songs. That is not Black culture. We embody the nuclear family. We embody the father leading the household. All of these things that we do in Black community, this has always been here long standing in conservative fashion. But now we have the degeneracy of our culture. Virgil Walker did a whole blog for Blexit a couple months ago, and it was talking about, how we used to dress and go out before sagging pants and bonnets. We actually went out with suits on, hats, high heel shoes. We looked the part. We cared about the community. We cared about how we walked in, even if it was going to the drugstore to pick up something real quick. We cared. And see, that lack of care, that lack of esteem has led us into where we are now. And we see this in places like Chicago. That used to be a thriving Black neighborhood. And now look at where we are, and we are capable, but we let the rappers and the sports players dictate Black culture. So now here we are. We have Cardi B telling us it's Sexy Red, I could have 10 baby daddies. I don't have to do anything. It's fine. We talk, we have all the rappers out here talking about I could have this one and that one, and it's okay if I have 10 kids. And again, this is what we're ascribing to Black culture, but that is not Black culture, because we've seen Black culture of excellence after we were enslaved for 250 years, which the left loves to talk about. Let's talk about that. We
That's right.
were. And you know what? We were better than ever after. So we can get back there. We just have to put our mind to it and focus.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that a lot of what you just said is something that's going to be discussed during your Liberation show that's coming up. I want to play just a very short video right now about that. And then I want to talk about that and some of the things that will be discussed there. So that was just a little tease about the Liberation show, and we'll play another video a little later on. But those are the things that are going to be addressed. Am I correct? When you have this event in July?
Absolutely. That is what our mission is when we do the liberation shows, is to again bring this high energy, high impact event to our minority communities to show them that, look, this is how you get out of the left stronghold. This is how you are free from government dependence and becoming your own steward of your life. And we do that by having evocative and visual arts so you could see how this is all done. It's going to be a story taking us out of the left stronghold and bringing us to freedom. And with that, we have a drum line, we have poets, we have speakers, we're high energy, and we're telling you the story because we know better. Our community, we love culture. We love to see, feel, hear, dance. And so that is what we are bringing to Tampa in our liberation show at the Ritz Ybor on July 13th. And you're not going to want to miss this because this event is going to be epic.
Yeah, and I do want to talk a little bit more about that later, and we'll have a special video sharing more about that. But ultimately, what ended up coming out of the historical things that you were just talking about with LBJ and those changes, plus all the garbage that is shown on TV and in the media as Black culture, ultimately, I mean, I feel like that has kind of led to a thought process of if you're Black, you only vote Democrat. Can you talk about that? Like, where did that come from? And why has it been so entrenched in the Black community?
Well, LBJ and the Great Society Act, that was really the turning point for Black America on a lot of levels. And so, it was all based off of, oh, there's a high homeless rate. And he had all these conflated numbers. And of course, we've heard him say foul things like we'll have, Black people voting Democrat for another 300 years. We've heard all these tapes. LBJ was not a fan or a really wanting to help the minority community. Instead, he decimated it. And so he did that by bringing the Great Society Act, by bringing in the welfare state, by ushering the fathers out of the home, by making government dependence. And then we had a great turn in how the Black community moved forward. And then we have, all the rest that ushered in, the drug epidemic and all these things. So LBJ was definitely the father of that turning point for Black America. But again, no circumstance for us should ever be too high to overcome. If we can overcome slavery, we can overcome this bump in the road with the Great Society Act. There should never be anything that we cannot overcome. When I look back now and I watch, the civil rights movement, and they're always singing, "We shall overcome." I'm like, if you're a believer in Christ, you've overcame. You've already
Amen.
overcome. So why are we saying we shall overcome? We're singing, we're marching, and you know what's funny? We're still marching and we ain't overcoming. So we gotta figure this out.
Woo!
Either we overcame or we did it. That's where we are. And so when I see these, I call them the puppet masters, like Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson and all these people that came before me, still saying they're fighting civil rights. I'm like, there's nothing to fight. We already have them. They've already been with us. They were with us the day that the Constitution was ratified. They were with us the day when we were emancipated. They've been with us. There's a delusion to think that we don't have rights.
But Tania, there are people watching this that are going to say, we are still oppressed. It's because of what happened before that we're still followed in the stores, or, we can't get the jobs that we want, things like that.
Yes, the microaggressions. That's always my favorite one.
Yeah.
And I said, so I worked in retail for many years. That was one of my first jobs out of high school, and I did it when I was going to college. And you want to be, presentable. You want to be somebody that's going to sell the clothing. So now that because you're white and I'm Black and I'm following you, now it's you're racist and you don't want me in the store. And this is absolutely just ridiculous. And again, this is also the argument. Well, you're saying racism doesn't exist. I never said that.
I was going to ask that, because there are people that say that, and they say there's no racism, but you're saying that it does still exist. But to me, isn't that just part of our sin nature as a human race, that you're not ever going to really be able to get rid of all the terrible things, right?
Exactly. That's exactly it. You're never going to get rid of what people think or what their perceptions are. What we're here to do is to go, okay, you know what? I'm walking in my Christian walk, in my godly walk, and I'm not going to look and judge anybody by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. And that's what we need to start doing. For all of us to say we're Christian, for all of us that are sitting here, at the end of the time, when we go and we transition, God is going to ask us what our voter registration card said. He's not going to care one iota. He's going to look at you and say, well, you're either in the Lamb's Book of Life or you're not, or well, my faithful servant. So I think these are the things that we have to look at. No one is pure and without sin. Right? So people out there are going to be racist, but to live our life and use that as our guide is absolutely ludicrous. For me to get up, me and my husband, we talk about this all the time. I was like, do you get up and think you're white? Do you get up and think you're Black? Do you wake up and go, okay, white Doug, and okay, Black Cindy? We just crack ourselves up. I just get up and go about my day. I mean, to put that much emphasis on race, you really have to put a lot of work, and that energy could be put into healing the community that you say you're saving.
And there are people that say that, because of our history and because of the slavery and all of that, we are owed. People owe us money. They owe reparations. They owe us, affirmative action and things like that. And you say those words, and you get attacked. That maybe you shouldn't have that. You get attacked all over the place.
So yeah, DEI and affirmative action hurt us the most.
Wow. Okay, you have to say that again, because people don't always, people don't agree with that. I mean, there's a lot of fighting over that. Please say it again and explain what you mean.
DEI and affirmative action, diversity, equity, inclusion sounds good, right? Shiny.
Mhm.
DEI and affirmative action hurt our minority community, especially the Black community, the most. We
Wow.
were putting people that have no credentials, have very limited means and access into places that they should not be. Not and there was no basis, right? There wasn't a degree. It wasn't anything that they were doing. It was just solely based on their skin color. And Clarence Thomas talks about this. Thomas Sowell talks about this. We have many scholars that talk about how this has hurt the Black community even more. And Thomas Sowell even says a Black child that can do average, above average work, going to a 4-year university and being with his peers is phenomenal. That child's going to excel. But then when you put the child in a higher bracket, Harvard, Yale, without any training to do that level of work, you are now crippling the child. And now the child's going to be placed in a worse situation. And we see that with the DEI hires. We talked about this with the pilots. Oh, now we need female pilots. So are we going to not have the special training like every other pilot, but we want to put a female pilot in? And it doesn't matter if the plane crashes, doesn't matter if the plane flips, and this is
Mm,
coming from a female. We're just going to put them in because they're a female. These
mm,
are toxic ideologies to our society. We need to understand that we all have a place, and it doesn't have to be in the forefront. You don't, not everybody has to be the CEO. We need people to do all different kinds of walks of life and the work that needs to
mhm,
get done. And we've said this over and over again, but the left seems to think that we're wrong because we say everything has a rightful place. Is that not biblical order?
Wow. Where did you find this conservative mindset, Tania? Tell us about your journey personally to this way of thinking.
Oh my goodness. So my parents were very conservative. My mother would never, I mean, when abortion would come up, we would never do that. But everybody could have their choice. That was kind of how we were raised. Um, I grew up with a father in the home. I mean, I've seen, a nuclear family. So I had all the conservative foundations. For me, it hit home about 2016. When the elections were getting pretty heated, and I was working in substance abuse and mental health at the time, and my husband and I both were. And so we thought we were really doing some great work, which we were. I will never discount the work I did with the organization I worked for. But there was just this sentiment of I'm spinning my wheels. And I was working with the men, and God has a way of showing you things. And I was working with men for them to get back on their feet in substance abuse and mental health, getting them on track, working with their children. But what I noticed was that the fathers weren't going back to the home. They were expected to work. And if they were working, they were going to be separated from their families while their wives or girlfriends were receiving food stamps and government issued
Assistance.
aid. And I'm
Mhm.
like, something's off here. And you just keep fighting the good fight. And then, Trump came on and said, what do you have to lose, that day when he made that speech? And I think I about fell out. I grabbed my husband's hand and I was like, what did he just do? Because at the time we were still teetering. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know about another Democratic 4-year term. And, not that I'm making this about election, but I'm like, something's off with what we're doing here. And I said, what do we have to lose? Black America isn't getting better. The streets are getting worse. And so my husband and I both at that time started to really change our lenses and really go, we need to do something different. And so I voted the first time conservatively in that election. Then 2020 hit, and I was deep in my conservative roots. Um, I watched from 2014, 2015, from the Ferguson riots, Hands Up, Don't Shoot, Michael Brown, inception of BLM. And I looked at my husband again and I said, if they don't curb that, they're going to be a force because they seem pretty unhinged right now. So it came 2020, rise of BLM. We're all in this together for COVID, but then separately, we were going to hate white people. That was really tragic. And so this is where I am digging. That's where I found my conservative roots and starting to read books and read about Booker T. Washington, Up From Slavery, all these books that were so great, and really digging in and learning our history, learning history, American history. Let's stop parsing this out. It's not.
Mhm.
It shouldn't even be African American history. Learning history, American history, is
That's right.
what we need to do as a people so that we can rise above and really get our conservative roots back.
That's exactly right, because there's no doubting that Blacks have been instrumental throughout history, have just done wonderful and amazing things. Why do we just want to focus on that only in this 1 month during the year? Like, it should just be woven in throughout the entire year, through the education process, right?
Correct. And we are selling ourselves short. And first of all, why is it only a month? We have throughout the beginning of American history, we've done so many things. I mean, if our community knew how instrumental we were during the Great Depression, we were in our community saving our dollars and generating our income. We
Mhm.
had some of
There was
the
a
first.
lot of wealth once upon a
Oh,
time in the Black
wow.
community. Yeah.
Correct. And Madam C.J. Walker, let's talk about
Yeah.
her hair.
Uh-huh.
As Black women, she was the first Black woman. She got the beauty parlors going. It gave Black women skills to do hair. And
And
first
became
Black
the first Black
millionaire.
millionaire, I think, or
Right.
something like that. Yeah.
But we're limiting it to a month and we're not talking about anything. And we
Mhm.
talk about Booker T. Washington, 13 years old. Slave master says, you guys are free. And the first thing he thinks about, he says in his book, is learning how to read and write. See, we
Mhm.
don't bring up these things.
Right.
We don't bring up these American history moments that are so pivotal to our society. We don't
Mhm.
want to bring those up because if we did, then where would the victimhood mindset sit now?
Mm.
Where would
Mhm.
it go if we actually, preach these things? We wouldn't be victims, right? We would be
Mhm.
victors. That's
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
Blexit does. That's what we're
Yeah.
trying to bring back.
And I want to talk about the rise of Blexit. Blexit is it's been around for quite a while now,
Yeah.
and with it, I believe and have seen a rise in Black conservatism. Would you say that's the case?
100%. I mean, without Blexit, these numbers that we're seeing of especially Black men turning out to the polls to vote, after
Yeah.
Obama scolded them, excuse me, for
Mhm.
not wanting to vote for, a Black, liberal woman. But
Mhm.
this is because we have, here at Blexit, we have said there is something wrong when we are preaching the feminization of men. Black men do not want to be feminized. They
Mm.
don't, they want to be men and working, not men
Mhm.
in dresses. So
And we
something
need them to be, yeah, we need them to be men. Our country and our society will crumble if
correct.
our men, and you know what? Maybe some people might say that that's the agenda.
Correct.
Get the society to crumble so it can be rebuilt in their image. But I wanted real fast to show this poll right here that in 2020, the Black vote was looked to be around 8% for Donald Trump and the Republicans, the conservative side. And by 2024, there's different polls that show different numbers, and this was one of the highest that I found. I think the other poll was around like 15% in 2024. And then I believe this was Pew Research that showed it at 20%. It could be Al Jazeera, I'm not 100% sure, but oh, it says Al Jazeera right there. Yeah, 20% Black vote turned out in 2024. For Republicans, these kinds of numbers are unheard of for the Black community. So, I mean, that to me, that shows a rise in conservatism and
100%.
moving over towards the right.
Yes, we are moving to the right because the right is the way to go because we at least hear each other. We can talk. We may not all agree on every point, every talking point of every person in the cabinet or in, who's holding the seat right now of President Trump. But the thing is that the value system is the same. We honor life, we honor the nuclear family, we want men to lead and support. Everyone has a godly order and a space and a place. And you know what? Nobody hates anyone. Nobody hates the transgender. Nobody hates the gays. Nobody, all these things that they're reporting are false. The thing is that the left has to always have the victim. And that is what people are catching on to, especially minority America. A lot of people are going back and looking at voting for Obama and being like, wait, what did he give us? Wait, wait, what were we promised? Wait, what did
Mm.
the Democrats give us? Change? Oh, it changed. It didn't
Whew.
change for us, though. It didn't
You don't
change.
get us in trouble, Tania.
It didn't change. Oh, there was a change, but it wasn't for us. So.
And honestly, you look around at some of the cities and you have to ask yourself that question. You mentioned, I think, Chicago and Detroit, but, Philly and
New
so
York.
many others. Yeah. And it just seems to be continuing to go downhill. One of the things that President Trump did, and I know Blexit's not, partisan in that way because you're 501c3, so it's not like you're saying go vote for this person. But one of the things that President Trump did in his first term was that kind of public private partnership that started building up those cities that have been run down for so long. And I mean, that was tangible. You could see the construction and the changes happening in a good way that way, that I don't know that you could see that under Biden and under Obama.
Correct. That was an instrumental plan. And I know a lot of Ti, the rapper, he's in the news saying, "Oh, well, I'm not a Republican or I'm not a conservative, but I do like that new plan for the community and me getting in there to do investments so I can own businesses." And he took advantage of it. He openly
Mm-hmm.
said that. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the thing. We all like to reap the rewards of conservatism, but then to come out and say it in our community, it's this horrible, vile, dirty word. When we should be feeling that kind of negative anger when our Black boys and girls can't read. We should be
Mm-hmm.
feeling this negative anger when the abortion rate is 3 to 4 times higher than most. We should be feeling that way when we walk on the street and we can't walk anywhere because all the drug paraphernalia is there. I want to see Black America get that angry about stuff that actually matters versus, oh, well, I don't really like the way he said it, or I don't like it.
Mm.
Okay, everybody's had a boss they don't like, but they've nurtured them and grown them and they've been successful. That's the way we should be looking at our commander in chief. But Black America, you have to get over it, because I'm telling you, we could have much more in store if we actually worried about the things that matter.
Wow, that's so good. So what about restoring the culture? I know
Mhm.
that that's something that Blexit cares about. I'm starting to hear it more and more as y'all are out there talking about Blexit. What does that mean, and how does that happen?
Well, our great leader, Pierre Wilson, he actually had the vision for this event, and it was absolutely fabulous. And we all agreed we need to restore the culture. We need to bring back minority America, Black America, back to the beginning. What mattered? What mattered? And when we had those changes after the Great Society Act, what fell apart? And it was family. It was God
Mm,
and it was family. So if
yeah.
we could bring that back, if we could bring the culture back, we could bring God back, we can bring a wholesome environment back, putting our kids first back, having a good time with our community, then you know what? Then we're propelled forward. There used to be a time when I grew up, I'm 80s baby, I'm gonna date myself. When I grew up in New York in the city, and this is the old New York, the old dirty New York that everybody talks about, but it was
Mm,
vibrant. We used to have things called block parties. So you would have cut off the streets, and that whole block was forced to come outside and say hello. Okay. You were forced to say hello. The kids all played. You knew your neighbor. You knew your neighbor by name. Today, I bet you if I walked outside, I can only tell you about 4 or 5 of my neighbors' names on a block of probably
mhm,
100 people.
mhm.
And this is
It's so
what's
sad.
hurting us. We are the ones hurting because we need to get back to our restoring the culture we used to have, where we
Mhm,
cared, where we were knew each other, who was hurting, who was in neglect, who are the elderly. We don't do that anymore. We don't care because it
mhm,
ain't about me. I don't care. I don't know. They better figure that out. And that's what's hurting us. So we're
mhm.
going to restore the culture here at Blexit. And the first one is going to be in Tampa.
Okay, I promise I'll get to it next. But I just want to talk about the like you've talked a little bit about it, but like the rap videos and all of that. But just in the way I think that even young women carry themselves now. I mean, the clothing we wear that leaves nothing to the imagination anymore. Just the twerking. I'm like, Miley Cyrus, I think, started the twerking. Like, why did we feel like that was something that we needed to take on? And you see the parties and all of that. Plus, also you see a lot of they call them youths, I guess, young people going and just robbing a bunch of stores, and nobody thinks twice about it. I think there was one teacher even at a school that was like, you know what, everybody does it, so it's okay, I've done it, everybody does it. I'm like, why is that acceptable? How can that be acceptable?
Well, because that's the culture, right? If Miley Cyrus sings "Jay's on Your Feet," and she dances and she twerks, that's totally acceptable. The culture is always relevant for the Black community, and that's the problem. It's not the family, it's not God. And when your God is not the center of your life, you see it, you know it, you feel it, right? And so these are the things that we talk about. You know, when I look at Cardi B and I look at Meg Thee Stallion and I look at all these women, female rappers, we talk about slavery and we talk about putting oh, we were on auction blocks and they were just reviewing us and we were naked. Is it not
Wow.
similar? Are we not
Wow.
doing the same thing? Cardi B, are you not saying that you didn't want to be with Offset because he couldn't be with one woman, which was
Wow.
you, right? But then we're looking at this and we're going, well, I don't know why he wouldn't want to be with me. But again, you shake your behind to all these other men. They're
Mm.
reviewing you like you were on the auction block.
Oh.
Let's put this into perspective with the slavery everybody talks about. So if we're saying we didn't want that slavery, you're putting yourself into another type of bondage,
Mhm.
another type of mental slavery to only be gawked and looked at and then wonder why everybody's treating you the way that you are treating yourself. And so when you don't have esteem for yourself, then who will? That's what Black women need to hear. When you're walking out with your, what's hanging out and your butt hanging out and the boobies hanging out and all these things hanging out, this is the respect you will get. And it'll be absolutely zero.
I think that is one of the most devastating takedowns of Black culture, quote unquote, that I've heard ever. But I think it's strong words, strong language that needs to be said and heard because there has to be a change. We have to make a change. Otherwise, I don't know, like, do we become extinct? I
Yeah,
don't,
we will
bad things
be.
happen.
And what are we? 10%? I think the 2020 census, which I don't know about those numbers because it was during
Yeah.
COVID, but I think we're about 10, 11%. That's a decrease from 13 from the
Mhm.
2010 census. So
Mhm.
when we're looking at, we're extincting, you're right. We are putting ourselves into extinction and then getting mad when we abort our babies. Our gang
Mm.
violence is the highest. We're sitting here going, I don't know how to I don't want to have more kids, even though we are still reproducing, not a high enough rate to keep these variables moving forward. We can't move our numbers if we don't care about the sanctity of life.
Mm.
That's the piece that we're missing. We have to care. We have to stop listening to, oh, well, it's not really a life. Just take this pill. It's okay. And
Mm.
then you know what? I have seen women with abortions. I used to work with them. And
Mm.
trust me, they're never whole again. Well, can I say all women are like that? No. There are some women who are okay with it, but for the most part, all you know is that you are missing a child or children. And that's what you know in the hearts of your heart.
Mhm.
And you bought into the lie that you won't be able to make it if you have a child. And you know what? God knows you before you are even conceived. So the fact that we're playing God is a problem. God will
Mhm.
make a way. He
Mhm.
always does.
He
He
always
wants
does.
that life. That life was being sent here for a reason.
Mhm.
Whatever way it came, of course, he's not happy if it's not within the marital confines, but God knows why he does the things he does.
Mhm.
And people need
Tania,
to understand that.
mhm. Mhm. I'm just gonna address the person watching right now who is saying, you know what? You say all those things, Tania, it's because you hate yourself. It's because you hate other Black people, and you are a Black white supremacist for saying for saying those things, right? I mean, Larry Elder was called that, right?
Love
Black,
it.
white, the Black face of white supremacy. He was called, I think, by a major newspaper. And so, how do you respond to folks that say, when people talk like this, they're selling out and they hate themselves and their skin?
No, I love myself. I love myself. I love my husband. I love my child. I love my son. I love the movement. That is what I love. I love being a wife. I love being a mother. I love being with my family. And I think that's something that scares the left. I don't
Mhm.
know. They're very taken aback that as women, we love being a mother and a wife and a sister and all these things because they're so busy trying to rearrange the order of what is biblical that they just want, feminism, that's the only way. Well, being a CEO and being alone with your 10 cats, if you have them, or being alone and having no one doesn't sound like exactly the life to me. And I'm not saying every woman is made to have children or can. It's whatever God puts in your life, but know that you have a path that is a way far beyond your expectations. And I think that's the problem with the left is that they try to play God a lot. They're trying to make this hierarchy. They're trying to make this whatever relevant. Your skin color is relevant. Your sex is relevant. Your religion is relevant. This is why you're relevant. No, I'm relevant because I'm a child of God. That's it. Period.
Amen.
That's why I'm relevant.
Amen. 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 All right, let's talk liberation show because I know we got to get out
Woo!
of here now. Oh, you know what? Let me play the video real fast and then you can give the rest of the details. Here we go.
Hey, Tampa, Florida. July 13th, Blexit finna pull up and show out for the Liberation Show. And I promise you, this is not something you won't want to miss. Blexit is the largest Black conservative grassroots organization in America that's really in real time changing the culture and shifting the narrative. Man, you want to have fun, you want to learn, and you get to see some amazing speakers. We got Pierre Wilson, we got Brandon Tatum, we got my guy Topher, we got Vince Ellison, April Chapman. Man, you don't want to miss this. Do me a favor, go on Blexit.com right now. Get your tickets. 2025 Liberation Show about to go crazy. I'm trying to tell you, listen, don't just meet me there, you better beat me there.
That's right. You
That
better
was
meet me there. Don't beat me there. That's right. That's right.
okay. Tell us all about it.
Oh man, this is going to be an amazing, high energy, high impact show. We've again to share the Blexit message and again overturn that mindset of victimhood to victorhood, and it'll be done in 4 parts in a story of how you were. Yes, you may once have been in oppression, but now you're liberated. So we urge everyone to come out. We've got a drum line. We've got rappers, conservative rappers, poets. We have high energy speakers. You don't want to miss this. The kids will have face painting. It's a family event. We have all different vendors, sponsors. This is a day from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. on July 13th at the Ritz in Ybor City. You don't want to miss this. It's going to be an amazing event.
Let's end with the future of Black conservatism. Where do you see it going?
The future of Black conservatism, it's only going to grow. People, I look on reels all the time. And all I see is we were duped. Oh no, we can't have this. I mean, I even saw as far as the liberals saying after the DNC convention how they were appalled at Meg the Stallion coming to twerk. Is this where we have gone with some of the comments? It's changing. The tide is changing. America is changing. And we're going back to where we once were. And that is good. That is wholesome. The family. If you pull stats from the 1900s after emancipation, you'll see we had a nuclear family, higher nuclear family than our white counterpart. We had more children. Our job wages were going up. We had the best statistics. We had Rosewood, Tulsa. We had Black communities thriving. Okay. And this is where Black conservatives going back to. We entrepreneurship, so many more Black business today than ever, because we know that the way to government economic independence is that we have to be self-working. We have to invest in ourselves, become entrepreneurs. This is where we are, and this is the future. And also the future lies with our HBCU campuses here at Blexit, under the direction of Pierre Wilson. Once again, he is leading us to take over those campuses and get that mindset in check, because those kids going to Spelman, going to Morehouse, and believing that you're a victim, it's very sad when your parents and everyone around you is paying $50,000 a year for you to leave there and feel that you cannot excel because of your skin color. Is a very, very sad situation. So Blexit's only going to rise. We're only going to push. And I want you all to put me out of a job, so when I wake up, I can say, you know what? The work is done. What is the next task out here on earth?
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Tania, for taking time and just breaking all of this down for us. I think that this is going to help a lot of people. I think it's also going to make a lot of people angry. So I think we better be prepared for that. But like I said before, they're powerful words. They need to be heard, and they need to be said. And we need to keep saying it, I think, over and over, because at the end of the day, our identity, one of the things that you said was that our identity has to be in Christ. We're children of God. We can all love each other. Yeah, and not solely rest in the color of our skin. It always goes back to the content of our character, and that's something that needs to rise as the conservatism is rising. Thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And so that is it for this special edition of Divine Family Entertainment's DFE News. I'm so grateful to Tania for joining us and for talking about the rise of Black conservatism. She said some powerful things that I think are going to be very helpful to a lot of people. Thanks for watching. Jeff?
Thanks to Tami DeVine for that special in-depth look at the rise of Black conservatism. That's it for now. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, comment, and engage with us so that YouTube and all the socials push it out to more viewers. Thanks for watching DFE News, news done right. See you next time.